My mom was pregnant at 13. And when I was 15 years old, she was actually murdered. I was angry at God. When you have a connection with someone, they will see all sides of you. I got tired of playing the part of, a believer and like, oh, everything is happy, happy, joy, joy, kumbaya. I recorded myself crying. I never did that in my life. I wanted to remember this moment and just say how low I felt. I had broken up with a previous relationship before, and I was doing a lot of things that weren't godly in that time. I said, God, if you don't want this for my life, I want you to bring fire. I was like, no, God, I want you to bring fire. I want to know for sure, this is not what you have planned for me, what you have not designed for me. That next morning, I kid you not, I woke up and one of I call her my spiritual sister. I've known her since kindergarten. She said, Nathan, is everything okay? My sister had a dream last night and you were in it. You were in a place that you shouldn't be, around people you shouldn't have been around, doing things you shouldn't be doing, and God sent fire. I cannot make this stuff up. This is that supernatural stuff that a lot of people really miss out in this lifetime. If you believe in a man who died and was raised 3 days later, you gotta believe the rest of the story.
Welcome back to the Patrick Ishimwe Show. I'm so glad you're here today. My guest today is Nathan Cabrera. He's an entrepreneur, a life coach, a podcast host, and I can't wait for you to meet him. He's an incredible young man of God, and he has so much wisdom to share with you. Nathan, welcome to the show. Can you tell me a little bit about you and your upbringing? Where did you grow up? Were you born and raised in Baltimore?
Yep.
Is your entire family from there? What's the whole
what's funny
background?
I don't even know if I mentioned this a couple times before, because I've had a couple of interviews as of late, and my parents were teenage parents, and I'm not talking older teenagers. We're talking my mom was pregnant at 13, and
oh wow,
my father was 15. Not when he was pregnant with me, but when they were doing
right,
shouldn't have been doing, and instead of.
So your mom was 13 and your dad was 15.
Yeah. So
dang, that's
crazy. I guess at that age you're in high school, so maybe it was the summer of 8th grade or something. Oh my God, that's just crazy. Too young to be having a child. I don't care what y'all say. I don't care if the Bible or theologians say that Mary was 12, 14, whatever. I don't care. In this day and age, it's too young. Your life. I'm 33 now. I can't imagine being 13 and pregnant, but
dude, I'm about to have my first kid. My wife and I are expecting our first kid literally in July.
Nice.
And I'm 33, and dude, I still feel like I'm too young. I have no clue what I'm doing. So I can only imagine being 15 and 13 having to do this.
They say kids are a blessing. By the way, congratulations to you. Early congratulations.
Thanks.
Many prayers for you for sleepful nights. Hopefully.
Oh my gosh.
But
that's what everybody keeps telling me. I don't know how that's going to go.
That's what they say. I'm like,
oh,
are you sure you wanted to do this? Did you plan for this to happen? You plan to not have sleepless nights? No, it's all good. But creating your family, that's awesome. Just listen to your wife if she needs something, offer that support.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's going to need it for a while, and she'll appreciate it. I'm
sure.
Yeah. But my parents were teenage parents, grew up in a working class community in Baltimore County. There was a lot of unsettled moments. There was a lot of physical violence in the household between my mom and dad. I saw a lot of anger and hitting. And my father ended up going to prison when I was 4. So right off the bat, there's a lot of dysfunction that, as a child, you don't really recognize that because it's your norm. It's where you're confined to. And especially when your upbringing is a little bit more destitute and disassociated from other people, you start to think that this is normal and this is how life is. And a lot of that kind of goes with you and gets dragged along as you age and you mature or not mature in life. So it was I think a lot of people could definitely relate to this, but in the 90s for sure, it was less common or not as glamorized, if I will say, to be a single parent in a minority in a community where you are the minority and broke, disadvantaged, underserved. We hit all the stereotypes, a Latino family. And then of course, like as I got older, my mom had 4 kids, 3 different baby daddies. So it's a lot. And believe me, I could go on because I was around and exposed to a lot, especially for that. I know kids now are exposed to so many things because of these wonderful tools. But back then I looking back, I was exposed to so many things that a child should not have been exposed to.
Shouldn't be exposed to. Yeah. So you mentioned that your mom had 4 kids. Are you still in touch with those siblings or no?
Yeah. So, yes, my mom's kids, I am still in touch with, and I won't speak on their behalf in their journey, out of respect. But well, we're all kind of like going through life in a different way. I don't know if you got to look into a little bit further on my background, but I did lose my mom when I was 15 years old. She was actually murdered, and so that was when.
Dude, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was actually when me and my siblings actually separated. So they were all younger than I was. I was the oldest. Thankfully, because I can't imagine having children before that 13 to 15 gap. But life became even more of a task afterwards, separating the only people you knew. Like, I go home and who do you meet? Your siblings, because the different men in the household, they were changing on a regular basis. So connections were hard. Trust was difficult. I think at that point, I actually just shared online for the very first time, in response to Sexual Assault Awareness Month, in the month of April. I actually endured a lot of that from the time I was 4 till about 11 years old. And so even that is a difficult thing for people to talk about, but especially men, and especially male Christians. And I think it is so vital. I've kind of just like come to the conclusion with it now that I've opened up about it more to like my significant other, my girlfriend, my friends, my mentors, and in pastoralship over the last few years. We're talking like this is still very new. Like not even 365 days I think have passed since I've shared this information with people that are closest to me. But I'm just kind of like,
dude, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Yeah. And thank you. Being exposed to so much, it is also hard to receive that apology or that sorry, because it's kind of like it doesn't quite always click, because I'm like, it's not a big deal, but I'm like, most people, and that part is not normal, right? Is the fact that, hey, this is actually a big deal. So I kind of own it now, and I receive it. I've done my healing for a lot of areas in that regard. Especially, I didn't realize how much an impact my mom's, slaying was to my life, and how I would carry relationships thereafter, how I would treat people thereafter. And, not to jump the gun, but essentially, it kind of affects your relationship with God too. If that makes sense, because of what the world has done to you, what you're exposed to. You think about like, hey, God is a father to the broken. God is Abba Father. And I'm like, well, to be honest, like my impressions of fathers are not that good.
Not so great.
So if that's how God is, then do I really want anything to do with him? And does he really want anything to do with me? So it's a little change it.
Yeah. Dude, you mentioned that your mom was murdered. What happened? Do you mind talking about that, or are you just not ready to talk about it yet?
No, I've been dealing with for years now, and it was kind of like something that like right off the gate that like actually maybe like a year later, I actually started a Christian t-shirt business. It's called KO T-shirts, and it stands for knocking out temptation. 1 Corinthians 10.
Oh, that's what's up.
No temptation has overtaken you except for what is common to mankind, but God is faithful to provide a way out. And so it was actually initially a means for getting my siblings back together and bring the household back together. But God had other plans, and, continuing that work. But, the goal or the premise of it is kind of changing. And this was brewing for like 10 years. And that's actually why I started my podcast, because I felt like that was more attainable. I needed to hold myself accountable instead of creating this documentary, which if you'll look online, I have a trailer which kind of like discusses some of the paramount information that took place with that. My mom went through a lot too, and I discovered so much more afterwards. And essentially, she was a teen mom and had to make it through life and supply for her babies. And so life brought her and attracted her, temptations attracted her to the nightlife scene, and that included being a dancer, being in the nightclubs. And beyond that, there was other ways as she got older to navigate that nightlife, and drugs. And Baltimore and a lot of metro areas are it's hand in hand, in tandem. And so unfortunately kind of fell in that trap. And to be honest, I don't fully know the full extent of what took place, but I know she was essentially alerted in her final days that something bad was going to happen. And she was murdered in 2007. And during that era, if you will, gang members don't normally have morals and values, but to some extent they did, or they do. And back then it was very uncommon, very unheard of for women to be taken. My mom was murdered by one shot in her sleep. They were trying to find her, they were trying to catch her, and she was trying to move every which way, so apparently to avoid this ultimatum. So I think she knew. And actually my mentor got the phone call a couple days before her murder to say, hey, please pray for me. And he's like, what do you mean by that? She's like, just, there's a lot going on right now. I mean, her tires were being slashed. There was different things that were, and it's sad because it's like, is this normal? This is backlash. This is a response. All these different things. It's like, it heightens up, but we were so used to all this calamity that it was just kind of like another day in the hood, another day, another story per se. And unfortunately, that caught up with her, and it pains me because I'm always, for years I was like, oh, I wish there was something I could do. Like apparently she had some people say like she had to pay a debt. Now, my mom was a great drug dealer, and this debt was like maybe $3,000. I'm sure, like, even if she didn't have it, someone would help her. So I think it was more than that. It was kind of like a moral instance. And then some people say her friend that she was helping, her boyfriend actually put out the hit on my mom. And this woman was staying with us on our couch with her baby, and my mom was dating her brother. So I actually interviewed these people in the trailer of the documentary. I just haven't had the time to really expand it to like an hour and a half, because it's a lot to deal with. And then on top of that, I am not an editor, so I might outsource that project for sure, because it's just, it's a lot to, do. I just want that vision to like be portrayed out there. And unfortunately in that world as well, and when I say that world, I mean like in the gang life or the associated, the codes. One of the codes is, no snitching, or, no, I don't want to talk too much, because if you put the facts out, it could put someone else in danger, including themselves. So I kind of felt like when I was interviewing these people that I'm not going to get the 100% full story, and especially depending on their relationships with each other, they're going to throw other people under the bus.
They're a little too reserved.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's strange in that regard. And shoot, that's why I'm not in a gang, because I snitch. I'm telling on people. I'm saying some things, I'm like, nope, I'm calling 911. I'm calling your mom. I'm calling your grandmom and telling them what you're doing, so so
yeah, dude, how old were you when your mom passed? Do you know?
I was 15, so it was actually like at the beginning of the school year, so I was like in 10th grade at that time. And I just remember,
wow, so you were old enough to actually remember what your mom looked like and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You weren't just a baby or anything.
Yeah, and that's just crazy. I have a sister who was like, I remember that morning she was actually like crying, because it was like in the wee hours of the morning, like maybe 5 a.m. And I think it was like a Sunday to Monday. So it was like Monday morning I was supposed to go to school. And, it stinks to know that my sister never got a chance to know who my mom was, or, have that relationship as a daughter and a mother. And, I remember giving her a bottle, and I said, go back upstairs, go back to bed. Because I didn't know what was going on. I just know that my mom's boyfriend was, alarmed by the gunshot, laying in bed next to her, turns on the light and sees my mom's deceased body there. Or, palpitations, something
Whoa.
going on, I'm not sure what the correct medical term is, but some movement, some jolting. But
Yeah.
he came upstairs. He had the 911 on the phone, but couldn't speak. I mean, he was trembling, he was shaking. And I actually asked him, did he remember any of that? And he didn't. And that doesn't surprise me, because a lot of times when we go through trauma, our coping mechanism is to block out these things. This pain, I have to get rid of it somehow. So you kind of like you try to forget about it. Like when it comes to my sexual abuse, I have no idea how it started. How the heck? Where were the adults? What was going on? And how did it go on for so long? We're talking years, days and days, months and months, years and years, where I'm, servicing, other individuals. And it wasn't one, it was two in our own house. Like, what is going on? Where? And I feel like, why wasn't I protected? And part of it too, my father and I have talked since then. I told him about it a couple years ago. Now he was in total shock and regrettably, sorry, but I'm like, this is the impact. This is something that you need to know. I don't have any ill towards him. I've forgiven him, and I'm so grateful for that. I don't have any animosity towards anyone, even my abusers. And I'm just like, when you don't know your role and play your part, like, think of actors. If you're not playing your part, you're not getting hired. You're not getting jobs. You're not getting booked.
Yeah.
When you're not taking the responsibility, being accountable, and knowing your role as a man, as a father, as a mother, whatever it is, there's going to be some outcomes to that. There's going to be some fall, and that's what happened. He wasn't responsible in his role as a father, as the priest of his household. So what happens? The wife or the mother, in this instance, my mom was stuck doing these things that she really didn't deserve, and had to go out like that. So it's,
that is so heartbreaking, man. Like, your mom was basically in survival mode, doing the best she could to provide.
I love that you say that. I love that you say that. A lot of people go into survival mode because that's all they know, and that's how they've had to make it in life.
Yeah. Were your mom's parents around at all growing up? Like, did you have your grandparents or no, or your dad's parents?
Yeah. They'll probably see this, so I have to watch my words, but I love you guys. Like, and that's the thing too, is the spirit of offense. This is a disclaimer here. If you're getting offended, you got to pray about that, because I speak in the most loving way as possible. I love people. I do not like to offend. I'm a people pleaser, but these things that you deal with, like whatever you're dealing with now, and I'm not trying to call your parents out now or your grandparents, but they came from somewhere. They came from the beginning of time, from original sin, right? So these issues that you have are passed down. When we talk about generational curses, they're coming from the generation before you, right? Something happened. And if you're like, you don't know about it, I bet you there's something. And it's not to say that's always the case in the sense of that very specific thing, but something, right? So I found out that my mom was abused. My grandmother was abused. So
oh my gosh.
I'm led to believe that my great-grandmother or great-grandfather, right? But men don't talk about that, so we'll never know. And it's not for us to know, but this ends here. My child in the future will not be sexually abused. My child will not know what it's like to go out without a mother and a father in their life. Because I told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, if God has plans and designed for us to be together, in the form of marriage and a family, till death do us part, brother. And I encourage you to, like, nothing's going to separate that, because, we can have our moments, we can have our, disagreements, but once we say I do, that's it. There's no going back. And I hate commitment. I'm afraid of commitment. That's why it's taken me so long. I'm 33 years old to actually get into a serious relationship, because I didn't know what the heck was going on. I needed to take care of myself before I introduced someone else into my space, into my life. But my grandparents, they were split up too. I vaguely remember
Wow.
my grandparents being together when I was very young, but then all of a sudden my grandfather wasn't there. There's not to get into it, infidelity involved and all that. And I'm not saying one of them was guilty and the other one was totally okay. It takes two to tango. So there's always
Yeah, those are just the facts. Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of times
Do you know who Michael Todd is?
Michael Todd.
He's a preacher.
Sounds familiar.
He's the pastor of a church called Transformation Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You know what? I think
if you look him up, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, his name is Michael Todd. He's a pastor of Transformation Church. He's also a music producer, so I wouldn't be surprised if you're playing his song. But he has a book that he released, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, and it was called Damaged But Not Destroyed. And he was talking about generational curses and talking about how when something is not transformed, it's transferred. So if your dad or your grandpa didn't address an issue or try to like seek therapy or guidance or counseling regarding a certain issue, like that thing is going to be transferred to their kid and grandkid, and it's just going to keep going full cycle. And I think it's a really good book to check out as well. Man, I'm so sorry that everything that's happened to you. But one of the things that I even noticed the moment I jumped on this call to have this podcast recording with you is just how happy you are and how joyful you are. And it's such a weird trend that I'm noticing since I'm interviewing so many people on this podcast. I'm having like very serious conversations with people who've gone through like the worst of the worst, and they all have one common denominator. They seem so happy, and I don't understand what it is. Like, what is it that keeps you going? Why do you still have so much joy after all the things that have happened to you?
You just stole the word out of my mouth. It's joy. It's like it's going through the fire and making it out alive. I'm still breathing today. The message today was just about like it was a joke about, but did you die? Like obviously, like we have our dark humor and different things that help us to cope with tragedy. But honestly, like to have a straight face and to smile and talk about, all these things that happened, it's because I have the joy of the Lord. Like it seems like cliche, and then other people are probably like, for those that might, not have that connection yet. And I say yet because my hope is for people to, be transformed. Is like once you've experienced joy, like it's different. Like I have moments where I'm not happy. Like I've had my seasons where I'm depressed and I'm sad. And I actually had one woman, she's a woman now, but in high school that gave me this like stink, like she smelled something look when she looked at me. And this was like one person I remember like to my examination is that, man, this girl I don't think like likes my energy, my spirit. Like, what is it? She's like, I don't know. You're just always happy all the time. And I was just like, that's a silly reason not to like somebody, but okay. And it kind of like stuck with me, but in a way, like sometimes, joy infuriates other people, especially when they're not in the middle of joy. But I want you to know, and other people that are listening, like I'm not like this 24/7, maybe 25/7. But, the reason being is honestly because I didn't let my past destroy me. It hurt me. Sometimes it crippled me. There's been times where, I've had my moments like after my mom died, I was living with folks, and I'm so grateful. So I hope they, again, are not offended by me saying this, but my bedroom was the size of, do you have stairs in your house? Like going upstairs or downstairs? Literally, there's that little storage space. If you have an opening or it's just closed, that was my bedroom for quite a few years. Wow. Like I was straight up Harry Potter, for those that know the reference, like I think the first one. But I had a curtain, and I had a bed, a twin bed there, and a dresser and a TV on top. I was still so thankful for that. But when you've gone through things and you made it out alive, like it's really hard to not have joy. I remember like those times under the steps, just sobbing for weeks and weeks. And I would just listen to Christian music, like old, they're old school now, but like the Jeremy Camps or the Chris Tomlins or whomever it was. It was just
the legends.
Yeah, it was just comforting music. And I would just ask God, why me? Why me? Even in my 20s. And this was like maybe there was one scenario I'll say is like, God, why am I experiencing this? And what I will say is that was another pivotal moment in my life where I was like, okay, God is here. And it was, this is going to get crazy. You ready?
Hey, my name is Patrick Ishimwe, and I'm the founder of District Lens Media here in Washington, D.C. But before I picked up a camera, I was just a kid born in Rwanda who had to leave his country at 2 years old because of a war that didn't start. We lived in refugee camps, then in West Africa, and eventually my family made it to Buffalo, New York when I was 16 years old. I learned early that the stories we carry matter, and the stories we share shape what people believe about us. So after years of working in brand engagement at DC United and producing faith-based podcasts on the side, I realized that video wasn't just a tool, it was a calling. And that's exactly why I started District Lens Media, to help businesses like yours tell your story, build trust, and grow through the power of video. So whether you're a local real estate agent, a law firm, a fitness trainer, a small business, a healthcare practice, my goal is very simple. If you're in the Washington, D.C. metro area and you're ready to start using video to build trust, attract clients, and grow your brand, let's talk. I would love to tell your story.
I was challenged with my life and my identity and what God wanted for me and not liking where it was going, because I felt it conflicted with what scripture said. And this is very generic, and I'm not going to get into it today because I could talk for hours, as you can tell. But
hey, that's what we're here for. So do your thing.
Essentially, I was angry at God. And I remember telling one lady that I was angry at God. She was like, oh, Jesus, like, yeah, I would never be angry at God. But I was like, when you have a connection with someone, they will see all sides of you. And I wanted to see, I got tired of playing the part of, a believer and like, oh, everything is so happy, happy, joy, joy, kumbaya. I was angry at God because I was like, I want this so bad. Why is this? Why can't I have it? Why can't I have it? Why do you think that, I can't be happy with this? This is what I want. But God, and I'm like sobbing, like, this is going to sound crazy. I like recorded myself crying. Like, I never did that in my life. And I was just like, I wanted to remember this moment and just say like how like low I felt. I think I had broken up with a previous relationship before, and I was doing a lot of things that weren't godly in that time. And it was like pouring down raining. And I think I was just starting my therapy journey, understand like, therapy, and that's even more toiling, like, because it's pulling out, growing pains are uncomfortable, like that. That's why they call it growing pains. So I'm unpacking all this stuff in the same season. And I told God, I was like, and some people aren't going to believe this. I said, God, if you don't want this for my life, I want you to bring fire. And sometimes you better watch out what you pray for. Like,
careful what you ask for.
Like, one of the things I learned is don't pray for patience. Don't ask God for patience, because he will show you. Because people were doing things for 40 days, 40 years, in an eternity, until they find out or got whatever it was that they were asking for. But I was like, God, I want you to bring fire. Like, I want to know for sure, like, this is not what you have planned for me, what you have not designed for me. And I went to sleep that night, and kind of cocky too. Like, I look back and it was kind of like God's going to show me, because he shows me, or he shows a messenger all the time. Like, there's so many stories that I could share. And that next morning, I kid you not, like, I woke up and one of I call her my spiritual sister. I've known her since kindergarten, and, we'll talk maybe once, maybe 3 times a year, or I'll see her once a year, visit her kids or her husband or family, have dinner and whatnot. Love them to death. And she said, Nathan, is everything okay? And I'm like, I already knew where this was going. She was like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, Britt, like everything's good. And she's like, are you sure? And I was like, what happened? And she was like, my sister had a dream last night and you were in it. You were in a place that you shouldn't be, around people you shouldn't have been around, doing things you shouldn't be doing.
Wow.
And God sent fire. And like, I heard the story kind of progressing a little bit. It wasn't obviously until she said he sent fire to the building. And there's so many, like, I need to be studying, because there's times like God has brought fire in the Bible. And I was like, what did you say? And I was tickled. I smiled, and like my mentor actually cracks up too, because he says like, man, like God you need to stop playing with God, because he just always he loves you so much, and you're special to him. You're like one of his favorites, Nate, because I can't tell you how many times that he talks to you or brings messengers to you all the time. Like, I wish he would do for me like how he does for you, because this is another scenario where God was like, ha ha, I got you. Now, I'm glad he didn't send fire to my actual house or to my car that night when I was ready to cuss him out. But he sent it in a dream. And it was funny because he could have sent it to my mentor, who's like a best friend to me. He could have sent it to my spiritual sister, because we're close. But he sent it to her sister, who then told it to her, who then came to me. Like, I cannot make this stuff up. Like, this is that supernatural stuff that a lot of people really miss out in this lifetime because they don't believe it or they don't tap into it. Like, I mean, if you believe in a man who died and was raised 3 days later, you kind of gotta believe the rest of the story. Come on now. So I 100% believe like that was ordained for me to hear. And what I will say is, in that span, that era of my life, you would think that it would have immediately changed me, and it did for a while, but I still have my little trip ups until I finally, defeated the beast, if you will. So yeah.
So growing up, did anyone talk about Jesus around your household? Did you guys ever go to church? Like, was that never really part of the conversation?
I was totally blessed with the fact that, especially back then, that I got introduced to God in church. I will say I attributed that to my grandmother. So that is one thing that, it was just what you did on a Sunday morning. You went to church, even if it meant playing church. We went to a old school Baptist church. It's still there. Which, by the way, one of my abusers, who was, like maybe 8 years older than I was, also went there. She was dating their father.
Oh wow.
So it's kind of like crazy, because some people like, a lot of people have baggage, especially when it comes to church and church hurt and different things like that. And we got to remember, like, people are people. It's not to excuse what they did or what's going to happen. And I totally disagree with these things, and nipping them in the bud to ensure people aren't hurt in the future. But at the end of the day, like, our spiritual journey is with Jesus Christ and our Father God. And so I will thank her. I didn't quite dive into that spiritual connection at that time, but being young and actually being exposed to just going to church and joining the choir, different things. It's just the religious culture. I got exposed to that. And then I had a childhood friend that made church more fun, in the sense of like having activities and things for kids to do. So we were neighbors, and invited me. And what I will say is, it doesn't hurt to invite, even if someone says no, because there was eras where I wasn't able to go, and there was too much going on in the house, and I had to watch the siblings, and just all this drama, and I didn't go to church, and so that those were the starts. Those were the seeds being sown in my life, for sure. So I'm definitely thankful for having that at such a young age.
Yeah, that's dope. And you mentioned that part of your, you mentioned that you're Latino. Are any of your family members from like overseas, like grew up in like other countries, or were they all like born and raised in the United States?
Yeah, so technically, I guess I'm considered second generation Puerto Rican. As you know, for those that don't, you don't need a passport to go to Puerto Rico if you are a U.S. citizen. We are U.S. territory. So, but my mom technically was born in Jersey, but she was raised in Puerto Rico as well. And my dad was born in Puerto Rico and raised there as well. So, they had life there, but transplants to Jersey, and then I was born in Baltimore, of course. But it was. Obviously the society is much more diverse and much more open to diversity. There's communities that, either been gentrified or mixed or whatever it has been. But, back in the 90s, I was probably the only minority on my block.
Wow.
And that's Latino. We actually, and still kind of do. We have a historically African-American community. It's called Turner Station. There's a lot of history. If you're a history buff, there's a lot of history that comes from there. And that was like the neighboring neighborhood where like only Black people lived. And then you had this one neighborhood where it was like only white people lived, but there weren't really any Latinos. And so growing up, people thought I was mixed, or they weren't sure what I was. And then I had to prove my ethnicity or race
Right.
or ethnicity. See, now the Latinos are going to come after me because I'm doing it wrong. But race and ethnicity are different. But I spoke Spanglish, and I was raised, and part of that, and you learn at a very young age. I ain't trying to separate myself and be more different than everybody else to put more eyes on me as a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a child, you try to
Yeah.
fit in, and so they're asking me to like say something in Spanish, and I probably said hola, and they're like, oh my god, speak Spanish. Back then. But yeah, people weren't exposed to
Yeah.
Latinos as much back then, and now the times have changed, and there's like I said, a lot more diversity, a lot more Latinos. But I was the founding Latino in this community. Okay, I was in the trenches,
Founding father,
trying to penetrate this area to ensure that more of us could move in, and so I had to start off soft. I had to be like, hey, not have an accent, like my grandmother, has an accent, but my mom had a hood accent, so that helped.
I love that. I moved to Buffalo, New York when I was about 15 or 16.
Okay.
And the community we lived in when we first moved to Buffalo, New York was predominantly Puerto Rican. And so I love Puerto Ricans, man. Yeah. Even the dudes in our neighborhoods that had Jeeps, and they would like drive around the neighborhood blasting Puerto Rican music, like, the upbeat, like boom, 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 like with the bass like really, really high. So like I just grew up around a lot of Puerto Ricans. I went to a high school in that same community. It was mostly Puerto Ricans, and there were some African Americans as well. And
in the 90s,
they just seemed like
blacks and the Puerto Ricans were like this, brother. Okay,
they were
like,
tight. I know.
Growing up, it was brown and black people together. For the rest. That's
yeah.
dope.
So I kind of had the same thing that you were talking about, just growing up in Baltimore, but like in Buffalo too, like the Puerto Ricans were mostly on the west side of Buffalo. The black people were on the east side. And then I think poor white people, or like middle class white people, were in the southern part of Buffalo. And then the rich, like upper middle class white people, were in the north part of Buffalo. So it's a very segregated city. And like even moving out there in 2008,
wow,
it was very apparent, it was very obvious. But I do remember just having a lot of like classmates that were Puerto Ricans, and they seemed very proud of their culture. Like a lot of them, their parents had flags in their car, like tiny little flags. Yeah,
they running gag
super proud
that says, "How did you know I was Puerto Rican?" And literally, it'll be like people like decked out with the tops, the bottoms, the sunglasses, the hats, the flag, the umbrella, and like the car. It was all Puerto Rican. Definitely a very like they have such pride, and understandably so. It's because they don't want their identity to disappear, with the times. And we can go down a rabbit hole of that too, because I consider places like Hawaii, that maybe like the indigenous people there are maybe a shell of their former selves, because the history is kind of like disappeared, or other people have moved in, but Puerto Ricans, like, they stand firm. But yeah, they definitely hang out in New York. They hang out in Florida, apparently Connecticut, and parts of PA. There's no Puerto Ricans down here. Like, I don't like, where are you at?
No,
you got to put the food out, and that's when we come out from hiding.
It's so true. The Puerto Ricans make the best food ever. Dude, anyway, so I was kind of curious. So you talked about how you grew up like speaking some Spanish, but not being completely fluent. And I wonder if you ever struggled to fit in, because as a kid, like you said, you always wanted to fit in. But like, did you ever feel like you were sort of trapped in between like two worlds? Like you couldn't necessarily hang out with the purebred Puerto Ricans who spoke like very fluent Spanish, and to the white kids or the African American kids, maybe you weren't like, I don't know.
That's a great question.
White enough or black enough. I don't know if that's something you ever struggled with.
That's actually a great question, because I try to think about that, because I feel like in most cases that's people's experiences. I really attribute my personality and my energy just being someone that can fit in. I'm like a chameleon with everyone, that I didn't have that much of an issue. Like I don't have the bullying experience, like in the sense that I was bullied, or like the segregation piece. Like people actually were attracted to the mystery of who I was. As far as fitting in, like I definitely, like looking back, I'm like, man, like it was I wasn't white enough. I wasn't Latino enough. and I wasn't black enough. By the way, Puerto Ricans are comprised of all three. If for those of you that
All
don't
three.
know,
Yeah.
we got the Spaniards with the colonization. We had the Africans who were the slaves, and the indigenous Taino Indians that were and Boriquen. That's the name of Puerto Rico prior to becoming Puerto Rico and becoming the Spanish port through colonization. But I do say, like, again, you know, I know this could be a touchy topic too when it comes to history and culture. Like, Puerto Ricans wouldn't exist if those three didn't mix. And I am like proud of my heritage. And as unsightly and how wrong a lot of these things were, somebody in there was in love with each other. My great-grandparents, my great-grandfather was white and my great-grandmother was black. But you know, still both associated with their Puerto Rican, you know, heritage and culture. And I just have Puerto Rican like a white person, definitely just now. Puerto Riqueño. So, but I actually visited my family in Jersey.
Hilarious.
Couple, like, this is probably like 10 years ago already. But my little cousins, in their hood, let me tell you, they're in Newark, New Jersey. So shout out to Newark, New Jersey. It's I hadn't been there in years, and I'm driving. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see my family again. And I'm seeing like caution tape everywhere saying blocked off.
You're like, I'm gonna get murdered here.
Like, dang, like, where is this at? Because Baltimore keeps being in the news for being, you know, murderland or whatever. But what's going on over here? But I came to like visit like a tia's party. And, you know, we do up the parties. It starts at like 6 and doesn't end till like 2, 3 in the morning. And all the kids are invited. And they shouldn't even be at these parties because there's a lot going on at them. But even you know, little Pedro or Jose's in the stroller, knocked out, sleeping because it's 2 in the morning. He needs to be in bed. But no, we're at this party, and this is what's important. But when I seen some of my cousins I hadn't seen in a long time, like some of the younger ones who like knew of me, I always feel like a celebrity. God bless them. They're so sweet. But they were like, "Is Nathan white?" And they came back and told me that. Like, "Oh my gosh, we thought you were white." And I was like, "Why'd you say that?" "This is the way you talk." You know, I was like, "What?" I was like, "I've never heard that before." You know, but again, it's like, you know, not black enough, not white enough, not Latino enough. You know, so I have all these things. But what I will say is growing up. You like how I always go back to your question. I'm trying.
I love that.
But essentially, I didn't have that experience personally. And it's not to take away for those that did have that experience of feeling ostracized. I attribute it to just being a lover and not a fighter and just like connecting with people. I didn't get the attention at home growing up, being the oldest, having disassociated, emotionally disassociated parents. And I craved attention. So whatever I could do to get a connection with others, it's still me to this day. In a sense, like that never leaves you. But I just wanted so badly to be loved by someone. So I was a teacher's pet. You know, I was a class clown. I was probably causing problems for talking too much in a classroom. But even at home, you know, going with different friends, like the other parents, especially the mamas, they were all my aunties. They loved me, you know. So I'm so thankful of the connections that I made growing up in childhood because I never felt like I was treated poorly. Wasn't until
dude, it's amazing how God works in mysterious ways because something that you were criticized for doing as a class clown all those years ago, now God is using by you speaking through that microphone and speaking to a lot of people and like just sharing your testimony and your journey with them.
Thank you.
And so, God is great, man. I'm kind of curious to know how your relationship with God has evolved over the years, you know, just from being a young child, going to youth group sometimes whenever you had time, to like where you're at right now. How has that evolved over the years?
I think like any strong relationship, there's always something new, something that's a surprise. And so what has changed over my lifetime is before I was very separated with God. Like I had a relationship with him. I knew of him. I prayed to him. There's times that I know for sure that I was just like as a child talking to him. But as my journey went on, especially, you know, teenage years and early adulthood years, I carried all that weight and I carried it alone, not allowing God to deal with those parts or being ashamed of it because I knew that if I exposed myself to other Christians about this, that I was going to be ostracized. Like you think about ostracization. Is that a word? You think about like Christians, like, let me bop you in the head with the Bible to knock this sin out of your life, or these experiences, or there's something icky or something wrong with you. And so it kind of imposed a barrier and a wall between me and God. And so I struggled with having that core relationship with him. And so now, like me, I can say like me and God are more on like the homie level, in the sense like I have a mature, I've had a mature relationship with him, but now I have that relationship with him, one that it's like back and forth. There's, communication involved. There's listening. There's accountability. Like it's a true relationship. Whereas before, I'm doing a lot of the motions. I was on the worship team, or I'm going to Bible studies, and I'm serving in these different capacities. And this followed me for a long time. And I won't say that I wasn't living for God, because I definitely was for a long time, but it's matured healthily with the Lord that I didn't know that's what I was missing. I was waiting for God.
You were on the worship team?
Yeah, believe it or not. I don't know how I made it.
No. Were you singing or playing instruments?
Just kidding. No, I was singing. I actually went to high school for 2 of those years being in the vocal magnet. And I still ask myself how I got in it, not because I couldn't sing, but because I was so shy. I felt like so many eyes were on me. And now, like, I'm like, everybody laughs when I said I was shy. Like, I won't dance in front of people, but I will crack a joke. I will talk.
Right.
But I sang, and I have pitch. I have a voice. I wouldn't consider myself like a vocalist. Like I feel like too many times people call themselves vocalists. It's the era of social media and everybody's being seen in covers. God bless you. Nurture that part of your life. But I think that's like a real, like, solid gift for some people.
It is.
And for me, it's just something that I'm able to do. I can sing. I'm thankful for that. I'm glad I have inner ear. I crack a joke on my friend. I have a really close circle, and he is all over the place. And he's like, that's okay. In heaven, it sounds good. And I'm like, you're right, brother. Like, let me not take that away from you. But he is all over the place. And if he stands next to me and we're singing, he's trying to throw me off pitch now. So stay away from those people.
I love that. All right. So let's talk about your podcast. What inspired it, and what are you hoping to achieve with it?
Yeah, like most things that I have in my life, it brews for a while. Like, I have to know for sure, like, this is what God wants, or this is a door that I want to go into. I am very suspect about a lot of things in life because I have trust issues that I'm working through. And there's that fear of failure, but the podcast is called Trip Ups and Triumphs. It's a kooky name.
I love it.
For a kooky guy. But essentially the story behind it is we all have this trip up life where we've experienced issues, calamity, whether they were imposed, whether they were self-induced, or you asked for it or not. But that's not where your story ends. And that's where triumphs comes in. So this is about capturing stories of other people, individuals, or just life journeys, because I might not always have a guest, but just having the opportunity and a platform where authenticity can take place, where people can share, be uplifted. I'm not advertising as a Christian podcast. It's Christian based because I'm a believer, but
exactly
as a whole, it's going to be a feel good podcast where people can get away from a lot of the noise. Like, we have a lot of other podcasts already out there that are about drama, that are about reality,
true crime,
but there's not really, for me, enough of the positivity out there. Like, I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about what's going on in that world. That, it's not to say that this is disrespect or, not wanting that information. It's just like, it's not for me. And I need something where I can get life, where I can get motivated. And you're probably, just like you heard some of my stuff today, you're probably going to hear some really wild stuff. I'm going to try to find the balance between comedy and realism, because I don't think there's enough of that, but I don't want to shy away from who I am as far as like personable, but also how much these stories being captured means to me to be showcased on a different platform. And I already have so many awesome people lined up. So I'm super excited. No episode's been out yet. Just an intro is out so far. But Triumphs and Triumphs, that's the name I'm going with. I have the channel posted on Spotify. I have to do my homework to get it on everything else. So
yeah, I love that. Do you have any idea when the first episode is going to drop, or is that something you're still working on?
I'm really hoping by the end of June. And I like to hold myself accountable, but also keeping things open-ended. But the best thing people can do is follow me on social media, Nathan J. Cabrera or Nathan Jesus, Nathan Jesus Cabrera. That's how you spell Jesus.
Yeah.
And, I'm starting to post a little bit about that, making an announcement. I have made an announcement, at least on some of my social media, for people to follow and stay up to date to get email updates and notices when the first episode drops.